What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and today I'm going to review and then rank, I guess, Peter Gabriel's recent release, I/O. This came out, the album itself came out on the 1st of December of 2023. We are now 28 days after that. But the entire album was released over the course of the year on, I think he dropped, every song has two mixes. There's a bright side mix and a dark side mix, or maybe it's just a bright mix and a dark mix. No, it is bright side mix, dark side mix. And I think he dropped the bright side mix on every full moon, and then the same song, dark side mix, on the new moon over the course of the year. And then he dropped the album in December. And I think the album, they both have both of them. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether I don't know what the physical CD looks like. I only know what the digital looks like. And the digital, you can get both sides. I don't know what the CD looks like, if you bought it, it's at the both mixes. So sorry, I did not check in that. However, if you buy the digital album, you get both mixes. And the difference between the both mixes, briefly, I haven't really done an A/B comparison, but I think just listening to it the handful of times I've listened to this album so far in the last couple of weeks, the bright side, I would say, is like a radio mix. It's like if you're listening to it in your car and you have like a car stereo radio, and it's like maybe the radio that comes with your car, right? Where the things that you need to be present as you're driving down the road and there's all this other noise you can hear. I think the vocals are maybe mixed a little bit higher. It seems like everything's brighter and poppier and maybe a little more radio friendly. And I don't mean for the radio, like radio play, but I mean in your car. Where I think the dark side mix definitely tends to be, it feels like it's more of a late night headphone-like listen. Songs are the same, but everything does seem to be a little more muted and darker, and maybe as some instruments are like toned down a little, other ones are allowed to come up a little bit more. So anyways, yeah, the songs are the same though, but I do think that I've listened to the dark side mix a couple times more than I have the bright side mix. I don't know, there's something about just the darkness of it all that I like. But anyways, it's 12 songs. And I had checked out the first two songs in early January and February of last year, and I liked them both. And then I just kind of lost track of it and only checked in on a couple. And it's not a bad album. It's a pretty solid Peter Gabriel album, but I don't think Peter Gabriel's really doing anything much different than he had on Up and a little bit on Us. And I think there is that you can play what song does this, like when we got to Us and Up, by that point, it almost seems like, okay, you need a Sledgehammer song. You're going to have like a Dark Red Rain / Growing Up type song. You're going to have these different type things. And it seems a lot of the songs on here, you can kind of play that game with, but they're not direct ripoffs. They're just kind of filling that like slot of like what's going to belong on a Peter Gabriel album. If I have any complaints about the album, we'll get those out of the way first. It's a little long. It's like close to 70 minutes. You can cut 20 plus minutes. Like as we get towards the latter half of the album, like the mid-tempo sameness of the songs kind of tends to have this sort of like numbing effect on your brain. And I think what was engaging early on in the album, mid-tempo, sort of lots of effects, by the end of the album becomes, okay, we're kind of just doing the same thing. So you can almost cut, like I would say even like the last four albums. If you can't, the last four songs take off 14, 25 minutes, which brings you to 43 minutes. You can cut off the last four songs, I would say. And the album is maybe a little bit stronger. But there's some good stuff on here. Like I do enjoy listening to it. It's not going to make my end of the year top 10 list. I did go back and listen to the Peter Gabriel albums that are at the back of that Peter Gabriel list to see where I would put it if I had to rank them, and I'll get to that last. But we get 12 songs, and I think the album starts off pretty strong. The first three songs especially. The opening Panopticon, all of these songs have just like kind of layers of like stuff going on. Almost all of them have this almost percussive, just like groundwork or framework around which the entire song is built. Really cool sort of, I think we have some drum programming in here. We got lots of different percussion. We got orchestral elements. We got choral elements. I think there's horns that come in at one point that give one of the songs, dare I say, a Phil Collins vibe. We got a lot going on, and it is a great headphone listen. I think both Bright Side and Dark Side, but I think the Dark Side, the brightness of the Bright Side isn't as obnoxious on the Dark Side. What? I'm going to stop talking about the mixes. But the opening Panopticon is good. Starts off with some great music. When we get to the chorus, it's a full-on Peter Gabriel type chorus. It sounds like a Peter Gabriel song. Like, he's definitely not reinventing any wheels here. He sounds like an older Peter Gabriel. The second song, The Court, another song. First two songs get off to an absolutely fantastic start. The production is great. The energy is great. They're kind of very atmospheric type, eerie type songs. You know, there's a darkness to almost everything Peter Gabriel does, and it's here in these songs. Playing for Time is the first one we get where we feel like we got an older Peter Gabriel here. And I do think this is one of the songs where I took notes for both listens. I listened to the Bright Side and the Dark Side. I took notes for both. For the Bright Side on Playing for Time, I wrote that it sounds like a 70s Randy Newman type song, like a piano ballad where Randy Newman's just going off about the state of the world. For the Dark Side mix, I actually wrote, it sounds like Paul Simon's Still Crazy After All These Years type vibe, where it's definitely like an older type musician reflecting back, in Peter Gabriel's case, much older than Simon was. But just the tone of the music, the delivery of the music, the sort of aged wisdom that is maybe trying to be imparted through the lyrics. Playing for Time is either tapping into some 70s Newman or some 70s Paul Simon. The title track, I.O., is probably one of the first kind of just that voice again type sledgehammer, so type track where you're like, when you're listening to it, there are moments, but it doesn't really linger when you're done. Four Kinds of Horses follows. A lot of these songs are longer than 5 minutes long, and I think it helps the song because all those different like percussive elements and weird elements, and some of them have strings that just kind of pop up at random times. The longer songs allow those sort of flavors to develop. You know, you have more of like a New Orleans type, gumbo type, big type stew things where flavors are really allowed to like seep into each other and you really get the experience. And while the length of the songs, I think, helps each individual song, ultimately it kind of hurts the album because by the time we get to like song 9, 10, 11, you're kind of like, okay, we need something. We need some kind of tempo shift or something. And we're not getting it. But Four Kinds of Horses, I think, is the longest song, the second longest song on the album. Almost sounds like it could be like the soundtrack to like an X-Files type movie. There's a lot of eeriness in it. There's some weird kind of like chanting that kind of comes in the background singers towards the end. It's just got a weird, strange, kind of slightly unsettling, spooky vibe. It's fantastic. It works great. Road to Joy follows that song and another song, which is another song, which we have Road to Joy, a song, and then a song called Olive Tree, are kind of like the upbeat poppy songs on the album. I think it's Olive Tree that kind of maybe almost has a little Phil Collins energy in there at one point, both the melody that he's singing and the I don't know if it's actual horns or like synthesized horns, but the horn sounds that are being used, I'm assuming it's actual horns. Yeah, it is actual horns on Olive Tree. Gives it a Phil Collins vibe, like not as Susu Studio, but we're getting to that kind of energy slightly. So we get Road to Joy, then we get So Much, which is a straight up ballad, piano ballad, really simple, nice synth work in the back. Olive Tree, a little more upbeat, starts slower, gets upbeat. Love Can Heal, another really kind of sparse, delicate, kind of fragile like ballad. And then we get three songs at the end, This Is Home, And Still, and Live and Let Live, which just kind of are in this mid-tempo range. When you're listening to them on the headphones, there's interesting stuff going on, but I don't think the melodies are that strong. I don't think the hooks are that strong. By this point, we're just kind of treading the same water. And then the last song, Live and Let Live, I think on a different album, it's a better song. It has sort of this, it's not a very Like it's not bringing in the horns and the upbeat and we're not dancing, but it feels like it has a slightly more optimistic, like we're going to end this on a happy note type vibe. And because the energy of the song is kind of in line with the energy of the rest of the album, it doesn't really provide a musical contrast. So even though the lyrics and Peter Gabriel's delivery and just the overall vibe is a little more uplifting, a little more like, yeah, live and let live, and it's gonna kind of pick you up at the end, it just seems like it's a little bit too little too late. Had it been a shorter album, maybe the song hits a little bit harder. Had the album rocked a lot harder and had a lot more energy, just in your face darkness and in your face, like just crazy Peter Gabriel noises and stuff, then maybe the song is a nice relief at the end. If the album was even slower and never got up and this was a little bit happier, maybe this lifts you up. It just seems like it's a really good song, just on an album that should be shorter or just in the wrong place. But yeah, Live and Let Live, that's the last song. But anyways, I like the album. I enjoy it. I've listened to it. I don't think Peter Gabriel at this point has made a bad album. I will put, did I mention this? I will put the link. I did a video already ranking his albums. I'll put that link in the description. And so the question is, where would I rank this album if I had to rank it among the other ones that Peter Gabriel already released? Just the studio albums. I'm not including Passion or anything like that, or the covers albums. I didn't do those. But if I just had to rank his like all original new material studio albums, I'm not even going to show you what the other list is. You can have to go watch that on your own, because I would put this as last. I went back and listened to the ones that I did have in like the last two spots. I like both of those better. I have listened to both of those for decades longer than I've listened to this. But I don't know like how many of these songs are really going to rise to become like favorites. Like I think the opening two, Panopticon and The Court, are really strong. I think Four Kinds of Horses has some really, really interesting ideas in it. So Much and Love Can Heal, I think in maybe a different context, those ballads have a little bit of power. Playing for Time's an interesting song, really long, slow. The drums don't drop in till like almost towards the end. That's pretty interesting. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff on here. But if I had to rank it, it would be my least favorite Peter Gabriel album at this point, with regards to all of his other studio albums. But anyways, it's only been out for less than a month, so who knows? That may change over time, but those are my initial thoughts on this album, Playing for Time. And I am actually, as I'm talking about some of these songs, I might have confused some of these songs with, been listening to a certain David Bowie album a lot lately that I'm going to talk about in another video. That also has kind of a similar vibe to this one. And I may have confused a couple songs, but I don't think so. I think I'm right. I think I know what I'm talking about. Anyways, but that's what I got. That's what I got for Peter Gabriel's I.O. It's not going to change anything. If you're not a Peter Gabriel fan already, this is not a good place to start. If you are a Peter Gabriel fan, I think it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. It's a pretty good album. It's got some great moments. I think he takes more chances and does more interesting things on every other album he's released, I would say. But for a man who's been making music for longer than I've been alive, this is pretty good. So anyways, yeah, that's all I got. Those are my ramble, incoherent thoughts on this. But would I recommend it? If you're already a Peter Gabriel fan, I would say, yeah. I would say it's a good listen. I'd say it's an interesting listen. The bright side, dark side thing is kind of interesting because the changes are pretty minor, but I think the results kind of over time, you're like, yeah, dark side is offering something different than bright side and vice versa. But yeah, all right, that's all I got. I'm rambling. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, and go listen to this album and let me know your thoughts on this album. If you've already listened to it, if you have listened to it, you know how things work. Do it. Do the things the way they work. That's all I got. Peace. Talk to you later.